Good morning. I'm Scott Rudd, the Chief Strategic Officer with T3Live.com.
And I'm Alex Steele with The Street. Together we're going to bring you the morning call. Happy Monday, everybody. Scott, markets had a painful day Friday. We look set to open even lower today. We're right around a key support level. Do you think we're going to hold that level?
At this point, I don't think we hold this level. This level is 1330. This is a level that we held a few times over the course of the last week. Now, I know there's been a lot of headlines recently, which we're going to get into, but really the market's been making its own headlines over the course of the past 2 weeks. We've seen a lot of technical damage in key areas, key groups, and if you overlay that with the technicals we're seeing with the S&P, it's actually even worse.
So if we break below that 1330, how low do we wind up going?
Well, below 1330 is the 50-day moving average, so let me show you some of these moving averages in some areas that you should write down to see how we act. Here is this 1330 area. This was that neckline that we broke above, which feels like decades ago. So right here, 1330, here's your 50-day at 1323, here's your 100-day at 1309. So these are the levels I'm going to watch. In my gut, I don't think we hold this level, at least intraday.
Right, right. I was going to say, though, with the headlines we're seeing today, you know, the U.S. hitting its debt ceiling, the scandal surrounding the IMF head, Dominique Strauss-Kahn, did that factor into your technical levels at all?
It's all pieces of the puzzle. Like this news over the weekend with the IMF guy. What's his name?
IMF guy. I think we should stick to that.
Well, the guy who's
Dominique
got
Strauss-Kahn.
All right, who's got absolutely no common sense. What's the reports? He's chasing down some hotel worker with his bathrobe and champagne. I don't know. Anyway,
sure,
you know that
it's a little on the rough side with the facts.
that could put some pressure on the euro, which traders have been watching very close. That has been very weak lately. That has been giving upside pressure on the dollar, which has been some of the stress that the market's been seeing, because it's been, you know, sell the dollar, buy everything else. In the last 2 weeks, that dollar broke that downtrend, so the trade has changed there.
But you could argue also that with the U.S. hitting the debt ceiling, that would be dollar negative.
True, but right now, as far as the action itself, you're seeing more pressure on the euro to the downside than pressure on the dollar, and the dollar has been crushed. So the dollar is oversold as, you know, to begin with. So you align all those headlines with my headlines, and my headlines are the poor technical action in leading stocks that have helped us give us clues on this breaking down process we've seen in the market.
Now, talking about the breaking down process, there were some leaders in the market that were giving us clues as we went along that it was breaking down. Let's just go over some of them real quick. I want to go to Baidu, was a big leader.
Yes, the Chinese internet group we've spoken about a lot. We talked about how the complexion changes and how you get out of the way, get out of your lungs, and maybe get short. And on earnings day, one of those days to take notice. It tried to break out and failed. I need to show you that chart here because it's going to happen again. I don't want you to miss it. That was right here. Okay, that was your clue number one. But you know what? If you missed that, this is that ascending uptrend that broke to the downside when we talked about leading stocks, big areas, boom. And now look where we are. Now, if you want to just also talk about Sina, Sina came out with numbers, was up 4, went negative, another bearish sign. So that showed you that this leading group is now broken. That added to some of my, to say, conviction that we're going to the downside.
And even more so, Apple, right? Broke some major levels there.
Yeah, Apple, I've tried to buy so many times above that 351. It didn't work. I got stopped out at 345. We talked about that level, and now it's going underneath 341. So right now, that could put some pressure on the Nasdaq. Another clue that, you know what, we're breaking down further.
What about Goldman also, just to wrap up the key stocks that you're looking at?
Well, Goldman, we talked about 150, 151, that if we stayed below that area, we could see downside acceleration. Not only did we stay below that area, we're now at 140. That put more stress on JP Morgan, Bank of America. The banks which have been lagging are now really a big headwind, and that's also going to put some pressure on those markets.
All right, so then before we get to sort of the sector temperature, are you going to short or are you going to go in cash? What's your strategy?
Well, I have to make sure I say this clearly. Right now I am flat, and I'm looking to see how we handle this down open, and I've been very flat over the past week or two. You know, we went from a portfolio approach to a wait and see as we saw this technical damage. At this point, down 7, 8 handles into 1330. Don't just short off the open, but see if we can't bounce it all. No groups go green.